A singular navigational error across a jurisdictional boundary does not result in a traffic citation. It precipitates a federal indictment. You may believe you are operating under federal protection, but the moment you cross that state line, you are entering a hostile legal environment designed to strip you of your liberty. Today, I am deconstructing 10 critical interstate transport vectors that are generating arrests at state borders right now. By the termination of this briefing, you will possess the operational intelligence to transit your firearms across every jurisdiction without risking a mandatory prison sentence or the permanent forfeiture of your Second Amendment rights. Just last month, in October 2025, federal enforcement assets interdicted a father and son at the Texas border. The result was the seizure of 400 firearms and the immediate filing of federal smuggling charges. In January 2025, 3 owners in New York were indicted on federal trafficking felonies for administrative errors they did not comprehend were criminal. This systemic targeting is active and targeting law-abiding citizens. My objective is to ensure you are not the next statistic. Number 1. The fallacy of safe passage and the FOPA loophole. You have been briefed on the Firearm Owners Protection Act, or FOPA. You operate under the assumption that this federal statute provides a shield during interstate transport. This is a fatal miscalculation. Here is the liability scenario. You are transiting from Pennsylvania to Florida. Your handgun is unloaded and secured in the trunk. You execute an overnight halt at a hotel in New Jersey. You believe FOPA protects you because your intent is transit. Incorrect. The moment you check into that hotel, New Jersey law enforcement has the authority to arrest you. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 926A, FOPA protection is contingent upon continuous and uninterrupted transport. The Third Circuit Court issued a ruling in 2025 establishing that a hotel stay renders your firearm readily accessible, effectively voiding your federal immunity. In New Jersey, unlicensed possession is a grave offense carrying up to 5 years of incarceration and mandatory minimum sentencing that judicial officers cannot suspend. Worse, the state treats FOPA as an affirmative defense, meaning the arrest occurs first, the seizure occurs first, and you are left to argue your innocence from a jail cell after liquidating your assets for legal counsel. Here is the operational protocol. Construct your travel vector to bypass restrictive jurisdictions like New Jersey, New York, Maryland, and Connecticut entirely. If a halt is unavoidable, the firearm must remain unloaded, locked in a hard-sided container, and secured in the trunk. Never transfer the asset to your hotel room. The superior tactic is a direct transit without cessation, or halting only in jurisdictions with confirmed reciprocity. However, even if you execute FOPA protocols with precision, the next vector of attack occurs within the federal transportation network. Number 2, the airport declaration trap. You adhere to the federal code. You declare the asset to the air carrier. It is unloaded, locked in a hard-sided case, and placed in checked baggage. The TSA clears it. You depart. Upon arrival or connection in New York or New Jersey, you are taken into custody. This outcome is a recurring nightmare at Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK. Federal regulation mandates declaration. However, New York and New Jersey state statutes demand a specific state-issued permit for mere possession, and they do not recognize federal TSA compliance as an exemption. In January 2025, a traveler from Virginia was detained at Norfolk International after TSA identified her declared firearm. The case was referred for prosecution. Between 2024 and 2025, multiple owners transiting through New York were arrested despite full TSA compliance because they lacked a New York pistol license. In New York, criminal possession in the second degree carries a 10-year sentence. In New Jersey, you face 5 years. These are felony indictments that terminate your career and rights. The protocol is absolute. Never originate, terminate, or connect flights through New York or New Jersey with firearms unless you possess their specific state permits. If transit is unavoidable, confirm reciprocity at the destination or ship the assets via an FFL. Document every interaction. Retain copies of declarations and photographic evidence of the locked case. An airport arrest is devastating, but the next error occurs during routine vehicular operations. Number 3, the Reciprocity Delusion. You possess a valid concealed carry permit from your domicile. You are transiting cross-country. You assume legality. You are on the verge of committing a felony in 14 distinct jurisdictions. Here is the operational failure. You transit from Texas to California. Your Texas license is valid. You cross the California state line carrying concealed. You are intercepted for a moving violation. You declare your weapon and present your Texas credentials. You are arrested immediately. California maintains zero reciprocity for out-of-state permits. This refusal to recognize extends to Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington, and D.C. In November 2025, Oregon enforcement apprehended 2 subjects for interstate violations. Unauthorized carry was the primary charge. In California, carrying concealed without a California-issued permit is a misdemeanor, but with aggravating factors, gang allegations, or prior convictions, it escalates to a felony carrying 3 years in state prison. Before any movement, consult the reciprocity matrix on the Attorney General's database or the USCCA tool. If the jurisdiction is non-permissive, the firearm must be unloaded and locked in the trunk under FOPA protocols. Never carry on your person. Secure non-resident. Permits from states with broad reciprocity, such as Utah or Florida, to expand your operational coverage. Permits are critical, but even if you are not carrying concealed, the hardware itself can trigger a felony. Number 4. Transporting high-capacity feeding devices. Your rifle was acquired with a standard 30-round magazine. It is compliant in your home state. You enter a restrictive jurisdiction. You have unknowingly committed a felony. 14 states and the District of Columbia prohibit magazines exceeding 10 rounds. Some cap at 15. These include California, Colorado, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. In October 2025, an individual was arrested near a political rally in Coachella Valley, California, for possession of a loaded firearm with a high-capacity magazine. In March 2025, the Ninth Circuit upheld California's ban under Penal Code 32310. Penalties include incarceration. There is no grandfather exception for importation. In Connecticut, this is a Class D felony. In New Jersey, you face 5 years. In New York, possession is a felony even if the magazine is empty and segregated from the weapon. These convictions result in a permanent prohibition on firearms ownership. Prior to transport, conduct a detailed audit of magazine capacity restrictions along your entire route. Acquire 10-round compliant magazines for travel. If you must transport standard capacity, disassembly may offer a defense in some jurisdictions, but it is high risk. The only secure option is to leave high-capacity magazines at your domicile. The magazine trap is dangerous, but the definition of a loaded firearm varies wildly and leads to immediate arrest. Number 5. The loaded vehicle trap. You maintain a loaded handgun in your center console for defense. It is legal in your home jurisdiction. You cross a state line. You are now committing a crime punishable by custodial time. State statutes regarding vehicle transport are inconsistent. Texas permits loaded carry in a vehicle without a permit. Drive that vehicle into California, and you have committed a misdemeanor or felony depending on the context. Maryland mandates firearms be unloaded and secured in the trunk. Massachusetts requires unloaded and locked status. In November 2025, a stop in Pasadena, Maryland, resulted in the arrest of 2 subjects after police located a loaded handgun. In California, transport of a loaded firearm is a crime. With aggravating factors, it becomes a felony punishable by 3 years in prison. The definition of loaded in California includes unexpended ammunition attached to the firearm or in the same compartment, even if the chamber is empty. Before crossing state lines, the firearm must be mechanically unloaded. Remove the magazine, clear the chamber, visually inspect. Segregate ammunition into a distinct container. Lock the unloaded firearm in a hard-sided case and secure it in the trunk, rendering it inaccessible to the driver. Maintain documentation of your compliance, including time-stamped photographs. Loaded firearms are a trap, but this next classification error will result in an 8-year custodial sentence in jurisdictions like California and New York. Number 6. Transporting unregistered assault weapons. You possess an AR-15 pattern rifle. It is compliant in your domicile. You transit to California or New York for a competition or familial visit. You have just executed a felony maneuver punishable by nearly a decade in state prison. California and New York maintain draconian bans and rigid registration protocols. In California, the asset must be DOJ registered. In New York, the SAFE Act bans these platforms entirely unless they are pre-ban grandfathered and registered. Here is the tactical failure. You are transiting from Arizona to California with your AR-15. You rely on FOPA protection. The California Highway Patrol executes an interdiction. They search the vehicle. They identify the unregistered AR-15. You are arrested on the spot. In March 2025, federal courts upheld California's assault weapon statutes. Possession of an unregistered unit carries severe criminal exposure. In California, this is a felony punishable by up to 3 years. In New York, criminal possession in the third degree is a Class D felony carrying 7 years. These are career-terminating convictions that permanently strip your Second Amendment rights. Never introduce assault weapon platforms into California, New York, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, or Hawaii without absolute verification of registration and permits. For competitions, utilize an FFL to ship the assets directly to the venue. If transit through these banned states is mandatory, your route must strictly qualify for FOPA protection. No stops, unloaded, locked, and inaccessible. Document your timeline. Assault weapon statutes are unforgiving. But this next mistake involves the ammunition itself, and it can generate an arrest even if the firearm is fully compliant. Number 7. Transporting prohibited munitions. You acquired hollow point ammunition for defense. It is legal in 48 states. You enter New Jersey. You are now facing felony indictments for possessing armor-piercing ammunition, even if the ballistics do not match the definition. New Jersey statutorily bans hollow point ammunition outside of extremely narrow exceptions: dwelling defense, direct transit to a range, or hunting. If you are intercepted with hollow points during a routine traffic stop while transiting New Jersey, you are subject to arrest. California bans specific armor-piercing composites. Massachusetts restricts specific calibers. In October 2024, a Massachusetts subject was arrested for illegal large-capacity feeding devices and ammunition charges, carrying significant penalties. Here is the nightmare scenario. You are transiting from Pennsylvania to Florida with 500 rounds of hollow points for a training evolution. You halt for fuel in New Jersey. The trooper inquires regarding weapons. You admit to the ammunition. You are arrested for prohibited munitions. In New Jersey, this is a 4th-degree crime punishable by 18 months in prison and fines. In California, armor-piercing possession is a felony. These convictions create a permanent criminal record. Audit ammunition restrictions for every jurisdiction on your vector. Avoid transporting hollow points through New Jersey unless you are proceeding directly to a range with documentation. In California, only transport ammunition that strictly complies with state definitions. Keep ammunition in factory packaging to prove lawful lineage. The superior tactic: acquire ammunition at your destination to nullify the transport risk entirely. Ammunition laws are a hidden minefield, but this next error occurs when you attempt to assist law enforcement, and it destroys your defense strategy. Number 8. Self-incrimination during traffic stops. You are interdicted. The officer inquires regarding weapons. You attempt to be cooperative. You detail your destination, your inventory, and your permits. You have just provided the prosecution with the evidence required to convict you. Here is the failure point. You are transiting Maryland with firearms locked in the trunk, strictly adhering to FOPA. The officer asks about weapons. You respond, "Yes, sir. I have 3 handguns, 2 rifles, and 1,000 rounds. I am driving from Virginia to Pennsylvania for a match." You continue. You explain your route. Your lunch stop 2 hours ago. You have just admitted to an unnecessary deviation, which legally voids your FOPA protection in hostile jurisdictions. You are arrested. In November 2025, 2 subjects in Oregon were arrested after a traffic stop revealed interstate violations based on their own admissions. What you articulate during a stop is evidentiary. Admitting to stops, detours, or overnight stays is a confession that voids federal immunity. Describing your inventory allows prosecutors to stack charges. Ignorance is not a defense. You face felony charges because you talked too much. Protocol: provide only mandated data: license, registration, insurance. If asked about weapons, disclose only if legally mandated by duty to inform statutes, and keep it concise. I have a firearm secured in the trunk. Do not elaborate on quantity, type, or itinerary. Politely decline further interrogation. I utilize my right to remain silent. Never consent to a vehicle search. Force the warrant. Document the interaction. Silence is your only shield. Talking destroys defenses, but this next mistake regarding school zones will trigger a federal arrest even if you are merely driving past. Number 9. Violation of the Gun-Free School Zones Act, GFSZA. You are transiting a residential sector with a concealed firearm. You observe no signage. You are unaware of an elementary school 2 blocks away. You have just violated federal law and are facing 5 years in federal prison. The GFSZA, 18 U.S.C. paragraph 922Q, criminalizes possession within 1,000 feet of school grounds. That is a radius exceeding 3 football fields. Most owners are oblivious to this invisible perimeter. Here is the trap. You are commuting with your concealed carry. Your route intersects a school zone. You are stopped for a taillight. The officer identifies the firearm. You are within the 1,000-foot kill box. You are arrested for a federal felony. There are exceptions. Valid state-issued permits provide protection, as do unloaded, locked containers. But the nuances are complex. In urban density, it is statistically impossible to transit without breaching a 1,000-foot zone. A federal conviction carries 5 years and a permanent prohibition on firearms ownership. This is a career ender. Protocol: secure a valid state-issued concealed carry permit, which triggers the GFSZA exception. When transporting without a permit, ensure firearms are unloaded and locked in containers not readily accessible. Use GPS technology to identify school zones and route around them. If you lack a permit in a specific state, strictly adhere to FOPA: unloaded, locked, trunk storage. This federal trap is active and invisible, but this final mistake is the most pervasive and catastrophic. Number 10. Willful negligence regarding state statutes. You assume legislative parity across state lines. You believe federal law is a blanket shield. You believe your permit is a universal pass. You are incorrect, and this error destroys more lives than any other vector. Every state maintains distinct codes regarding carry, magazines, assault weapons, ammunition, and transport. What is lawful in Texas is a felony in California. What is compliant in Florida warrants an arrest in New York. In January 2025, ICE arrested a father and son at the Texas border. 400 firearms seized. In November 2025, Oregon arrested 2 men for interstate violations. In October 2025, a subject was arrested in California for magazine violations. Every single case involved an owner who failed to conduct reconnaissance. They assumed legality. They were wrong. They now face prison, financial ruin, and permanent disarmament. Ignorance of the law is not a defense. It is an admission of guilt. Courts do not care about your intent. Prosecutors do not care about your confusion. You will face felony charges. Protocol: before any interstate movement, conduct a deep dive research session on every jurisdiction on your route. Utilize the USCCA reciprocity map and state attorney general databases. Verify reciprocity, magazine limits, assault weapon definitions, and ammo restrictions. Print the statutes and carry them. When in doubt, revert to FOPA protocols: unloaded, locked, trunk. Better yet, ship the assets via FFL to bypass the transport risk entirely. These 10 errors have dismantled the lives of countless owners. You do not have to be the next casualty. Let us recap the 10 interstate transport vectors that lead to prison. Mistake 1. Trusting FOPA without understanding. The continuous journey requirement. Overnight stops void your immunity. Mistake 2. Declaring firearms at hostile airports. New York and New Jersey will arrest you despite TSA compliance. Mistake 3. Assuming universal reciprocity. 14 states do not recognize your permit, leading to felony charges. Mistake 4. Transporting high-capacity magazines. 14 states ban these devices with custodial sentences. Mistake 5. Transporting loaded firearms. Definitions vary, turning legal carry into criminal offenses. Mistake 6. Transporting unregistered assault weapons, up to 8 years in prison in California and New York. Mistake 7. Transporting prohibited ammunition. Hollow points and armor-piercing rounds are felony traps. Mistake 8. Volunteering intelligence during traffic stops. Your words are the prosecution's weapon. Mistake 9. Violating the Gun-Free School Zones Act. 5 years federal time for an invisible boundary. Mistake 10. Willful negligence regarding state laws. The most common failure point. Any single violation can cost you $50,000 in defense fees, a decade in prison, and your right to bear arms forever. In 2025 alone, hundreds of law-abiding owners have been interdicted. Do not let statutory confusion terminate your freedom.